Welcome to Software Rocks, the Productive Development Project Part 2. Welcome to Software Rocks, the show where I'm going to teach you how to take your software development from average to amazing. Today on the show, the Productive Development Project Part 2 on a roll, and something you can do today to start making your development better. The Productive Development Project. Over this episode, the previous episode, and the next episode, I'm talking about what I class as the Productive Development Project. Namely, I want to talk you through everything you need to know and do in order to get started with development, get off on the right foot, get your documents sorted, that first sprint and what happens after that, getting to the finishing line, and learning what you can so you can make improvements for the next time. This isn't a prescriptive guide. I do hope it will show you how you can do it and give you some ideas about where perhaps it's not working for you and where you can make some improvements. There's nothing worse for me than companies and teams that flounder around and are just not clear with their people about what they want to do and how they're going to do it. Be clear with your teams, value their time, and don't accept half measures. This guide will certainly help you plan out how you go about doing development, what you need to have in place, and hopefully make your development better. What we covered last time, I went over who the product owner is, why they are key to developing your software, why you can't start a project without one, why they have the hardest job, how they need to plan what's going to be coming in the project, how they work with the team, and how they are the leader of the team. Even when they're not the most technical. I'm not talking about technical leadership. Technical leadership is purely a development function. But this is their product. This is their vision and idea. They are leading the team to that vision, and they've got to pull the team with them. Went over the documents you're going to need, the roadmap, the prototype, the specification, and the backlog. Now, as I said, this isn't a prescriptive guide. Some people have more. Some people might have less. I don't think I'd recommend having less. Again, it's all about clarity. It's all about having that vision and being able to clearly express what it is you want to do. I don't think you can do it with less than that, but I could be wrong. So prove me wrong. Tell me how you're doing it. I'd love to know. And then I talked about starting your project with a bang. As I said, nothing is worse to me than starting a project with a whimper. Namely, you go up to the team and go, well, yeah, next week you might be working on this, you might not. I don't know. Haven't really thought it through. This is probably the head of a department telling you that. This is probably a manager whose job it is to know this stuff, to have this planned out, going, well, yeah, maybe next time. I don't know. Next week you might have something. I'm not sure. Why don't you know? Why have you not planned this stuff out? Nothing makes me more angry. I'm seeing it at the minute somewhere, and it's a case of you're hitting the development team hard. You're coming over to them and giving them all this stuff and making them do all this work, and yet you can't do the most basic piece of work, which is actually have decided what they're going to do and make sure they know what's going to happen. So don't start half-hearted. Don't start with a whimper like that. Start with a bang. Make sure you're known. Make sure everyone's clear what they're doing. Make sure your people know they're on the project, and make sure it's the only project they're on. I'm going to talk about task switching in a minute, but don't give teams multiple projects. Be clear about who's doing what and when. If you can't be clear with your teams about who's doing what and when and what's lined up and what's coming, how are you being clear to your boards and your C-suite about the resources you need? Because obviously you don't know. Let them know you care about this. Explain your thoughts, show your plans, welcome their questions. They're going to have a lot of questions, and chances are they're going to change your mind on some things, and that's fine. That's perfectly acceptable. That's what we want. The ideas you have at the start of a project are not going to be the ideas you have at the end of it, and that's exactly right. You're doing learning as you go, and it's right that you adjust your course based on what you have learned. So if you've done all that, fantastic. You're probably off to a better start with that than 98% of all the software development projects out there. That's how bad this stuff actually is for companies. They really just don't think about how they communicate or what they're trying to say. If you're doing that, you're already ahead of the pack. You're well on your way to developing a great bit of software. What happens next? If you've read the Agile books, there'll be one thing you've noticed, and that's what they talk about, the team sitting together. What they actually say is the team should have their own room. And there's a really good reason for that. It isn't because the developers want their own offices. It isn't because they want to get some status and have a special place. It's all to do with collaboration and team building and making that as effective and as powerful as you possibly can. And the only way you can do that is by removing distractions and making sure the team is together and they know what's going on. So who is on the team? Obviously, you've got the developers. And by the developers, I'm talking about anybody who's involved in the code. So in that group, I'm putting the actual software developers, the testers, the design people, anyone who's looking at code. In my head is a developer. They are developing something. There's the Scrum Master, the person who's keeping it all straight and making sure everyone's doing what they should be doing. And then you've got the product owner. Now, this is where it potentially becomes controversial, and it really shouldn't. The product owner is part of the team. They are defined as a team member. That means they sit with the development team. Now, that's where you get the controversial part. You're going to have a lot of people out there who say, whoa, hold on a second. What do you mean the product owner sits with the team? They've got their own work to do. They don't have the time for that. And then so the question I have to ask them is, what do you mean they don't have time for that? They are developing a product for your company. How many people in your company are actually developing products? Not that many. And yet, what do you mean they don't have time to sit with the development team? What else are they doing that is so important that they can't sit with the development team? So then you get all these excuses come out. They have other work to do. They haven't got the time. They don't understand. They just want the reports. Basically, these are all just a cover for they don't care. And that's not acceptable. Why is it that the development team, the testers, the designers, all these other people, and the Scrum Master have to be absolutely focused on this? They're being told this is the most important thing in the world, and yet the product owner, the person who is actually responsible for this stuff, just goes, oh, well, yeah, you do that. I'll come and check on you later. No. This is not how it's done. What I'm talking about here is I want you to be productive in development. I don't want you to just do development. I don't want development to be a little thing that you do off to the side. I don't want it to be a bit of fun. Development is a very serious business, and it is very expensive. And I've got some numbers here I'm going to talk about in a second. It's time for you to take it seriously. It's time for you to understand that if you want to develop good software, you've got to take it seriously. And if you want it to happen fast, if you want to become an agile company, if you want to be able to react to change and innovate, then you have to change some of your thinking. You have to sit people in teams. You have to keep them in teams. And product owners are an important part of those teams. They represent the business, and they are the ones who make decisions. They are leading this stuff. Don't leave it to chance. Don't let them worm out of their responsibilities. They've got to be held accountable. If you hold them accountable and they're actually invested, you're going to find that your development team behaves a lot better and gets through a lot more work. One of the ways to get that velocity up is to immerse the team in the project. This is where the idea of team rooms comes from. It doesn't have to be a team room. I'd recommend that you do have team rooms, and I'm going to go through some numbers in a sec. But you don't have to. But you want immersion. You want that team to be fully dedicated. And obviously, as I just said, the team includes the product owner. You want them fully invested in this product. And that's all you want them making. You don't want them doing anything else. So here's a little bit of simple maths to prove that having a team room for your development team to actually sit in is basically a no-brainer. You can't afford not to do it. Let's break down the team. And these are cheap numbers for the sort of stuff I do, but I wanted to base it on something that might be realistic for full-time permanent employees rather than having either highly paid permanents or contractors. So let's break down the team. You've got a product owner. Let's say they price them out about £200 a day. You've got one of them. You've got developers, again, about £200 a day, 3 of them. You've got a tester, 200, designer, 150, and a scrum master, 200. That makes your team of 7. Now, you could go a little bit bigger, you could go a little bit smaller, but let's leave it at that. That's a good sized team for developing a serious bit of software. The total price for that per day is $1,350. So the total price for that per week is $6,750. That's just the staff. That's not including hardware. That's not including software or tools that they're going to need. That's not including the building or anything else. That's just purely the staff figure. That's not cheap. So let's put them on a 6-month project. Let's imagine that this group is going to do a 6-month project, and I'm not including the tools they're going to need. This is purely staff costs. So a 6-month project, that's going to cost you £162,000, and it's going to take you 24 weeks to do it. Now let's imagine you put them in a team room. Now I'm not talking about the benefits you get from Agile. I'm not talking about some of the speed increases and the velocity and stuff. Cover that in a second. This is purely a saving based on making sure the team is focused on the product and is kept away from distractions. So how much do you think your development team would actually save by being totally focused? 10%? 20%? I reckon that based on the teams that I've worked with who are working in open plan offices and usually working on multiple projects at the same time, as well as supporting other bits and pieces, I reckon you're going to see somewhere around a 30% saving. Now, what does that mean? That means over the course of a 6-month project, you're going to save £48,600. Let's think about that for a moment. £48,600. That is basically the price of a full-time developer. You save this money because you're going to bring the project in faster. You're going to bring this project in 17 weeks rather than 24 weeks. That's going to give you a twofold win. You get the saving. The reason you get the saving is because they're wholly focused on doing this one thing. They've got access to their product owner. They've got no distractions. They are kept away from everything else. This is their whole project. They're going to bring it in 30% quicker, 17 weeks. That's not only saved you time, but saving time is saving you money. So that's going to save you $48,600. But there's another side to this. That's going to take the amount of work that team can do from 2 projects a year to 3 projects a year. And I'm talking large-scale, 6-month, serious projects. And they're going to start ripping through them like you wouldn't believe. So you're doing 3 projects a year rather than 2. That's a saving of $145,800 a year on year, every year. And that's before I go over some of the savings that you can get by properly going agile and really pushing what you can do. This is just by taking away distractions from the team. And 30% isn't even that much. You might even find you can get a 50% increase just by removing distractions. It's worth thinking about. A team room can potentially, I suppose, seem like a luxury, but when you put it in terms of pure money and pure work going through, I think you start to see actually there's a serious business to having team rooms. So why would you have a team room? Why would this help you at all? Again, it all comes down to immersion and removing multitasking. It's a well-known fact. Humans can't task switch. They're absolutely appalling at multitasking, let alone asking developers to task switch. That's even worse. Having a developer in code, and this is testers and UX and everything else as well. Having one of these people in the code, then someone walking up to them and saying, "Oh, can you just look at this?" That's it. They're out of the code. That's it. Even just by talking to them, you've distracted them. Distract them for too long, they can't go back to what they were doing. A 5-minute distraction can lead easily to an hour's lost time. This is well-known stuff. And yet we persist in putting developers in environments where they are constantly distracted. Let's take that away. Let's remove all of that. Let's get them all in a task room. Let's remove the distractions. Let's allow them to work in a fully uninterrupted space. Let's give them access to everything they need. Let's put all their project work on the walls. Let's have the product owner sitting in there with them. Nothing is there to distract them. Your velocity is going to go through the roof. This is before you're even really trying. There's no barriers to communication. The team becomes a cohesive whole. So once you've got that, now you're cooking your gas. Now you're ready to start. When I say start, I mean day 1 of the team being formed, they start working. There is no setup. There are no meetings to discuss direction. The team is in place. They start working right now. Now, I'm assuming your development team have already organised themselves enough to have talked about the project They know what they've got to do because you've already had that meeting. They know how to approach it. They know what they need. That's their job. They're going to sort that out for themselves. They will be invested, if you're invested, in actually solving this stuff, and they will deal with that. So step number 1, the planning meeting. So this is on day 1 of having your team formed. Sit down, do the planning meeting. Now, this isn't big upfront design. This isn't laying out the big waterfall style, here's everything we're going to do, and here's all the components. This isn't a meeting to discuss the project. As I said, you've already done that. You had that in your Big Bang meeting. You laid out your vision and your roadmap. That's all done. You finished with that. They understand what they've got to do, and they've got access to the product owner. Any questions they come up with, they can ask immediately. This is the planning meeting. So this is where the PO presents their prioritized backlog, and they've already prioritized it. There's none of this, I've got to have all these things, these are all musts. No. You've laid out your roadmap. You've laid out your MVP. Here's your prioritized backlog. They are trusting the product owner to know where they're going and to be offering them the most important parts first. So the team can then just immediately start estimating. I want to talk about portfolio planning and estimating on the bigger scale in a couple of weeks' time. This meeting I'm talking about now, this is the actual team planning meeting. This is where they start to break down the actual work. So the team is going to take the first epic off the backlog, look at its user stories, discuss it with the product owner. They're going to make sure they know everything they need to know, and they're very clear on what they're going to get, very clear what they're going to deliver. Then they're going to play planning poker to give each one of those stories a rough size. And when I say rough, I really do mean rough. I'm reading through Jeff Sutherland's book at the moment, How to Get Twice the Work Done in Half the Time. And he specifically talks about planning poker in there. I think I'm going to fetch out what he says there and actually talk about it. Because what it doesn't say is everybody must agree on a number. What it says is everyone plays planning poker and they present their numbers. But if those numbers are within 2 points of each other, namely some people put down a load of 5s, one person puts down an 8 and someone else puts down a 3, you take the average and you move on. That's it. I've done it in the past, not always, but I've done it in the past where I have to get everyone to a consensus. And now I'm starting to realise, actually, I'm wasting my time. That's close enough. This isn't only an estimate. It can be rough. It doesn't have to be precise, and it shouldn't be precise. The reason it shouldn't be precise is you're wasting your time. It's an estimate. You don't know. Don't pretend that you do. Get through all those. Get through the first epic, let's say, the first story. Look at the numbers and decide what you're going to take. The team is going to make their commitment. They're going to say, we are going to do this much. They start working. That's it. There is no big process. There's no massive discussion. The team knows what they've got to do. For the next 2 weeks, the development team are going to crack on with the development. They know what they're doing. They've made a commitment. They know what they can do. There are no distractions. Everything's right where they need it to be. They have the PO to hand. They have everything they need. It's all right there at their fingertips. They are responsible for writing the code. They are responsible for setting up the environments. They are responsible for everything they need to do to get that software up and running. And when I say up and running and they're responsible for the environments, they should be looking after the VMs, the virtual machines. They should be looking after the deployment. They should be doing everything. They are aiming for the pure sense of Agile, which is potentially shippable at the end of their increment. Namely, it's been fully tested, not partially tested, not bit tested, fully tested with everything the business needs to have tested, performance tested, integration tested. All of that should be automated. All of that should happen every single iteration. So at the end of that iteration, they have something that they can stick out to the website, stick out to the public if that's what the business wants. That's something of a mind shift for a lot of developers. It's something of a mind shift for a lot of companies. Again, we're aiming for agility. We want true agility, the ability to put out a piece of work and then change direction completely the next sprint if we want to. Step 3, the demo. So you've got to the end of the sprint, 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks, however it is you do it. It's time to show your work. This isn't really for the PO anymore. The product owner should now be so involved, they know exactly what is in that release. They know what is there. They're sitting in the room with the team. They know what's going into it, but it doesn't hurt for them to get a proper demo at the end of the iteration. But the product owner is going to invite the stakeholders to come and look at it as well. That might be the management, might be the directors, might be the customers, might be any interested party from around the company. And again, You can invite other development teams. You've got nothing to hide. You want to show what you're doing and you want to communicate this stuff out there. Show the work. Show what works. Talk about what doesn't work. Talk about what didn't get in and what you couldn't finish. Be honest about it. Get to the end of that. The stakeholder's going to have feedback. You've got to listen to it. And when I say you've got to listen to it, that's the development team have got to listen to it. The product owner's got to listen to it. The stakeholders, your customers, whoever it is, they've got valuable advice on what you've just shown them. Make sure you're paying attention to them and involve them early. You want to be getting that feedback as quick as you can. The product owner is responsible for collecting that feedback, discussing it with them, taking it away if they need to, but ultimately rolling that up into their plan and adjusting their plan based on what the feedback says. It's not the developers doing that, it's no one else. The product owner is doing that. Once you finish with the demo, it's time for the retrospective. You've got to have a retrospective every sprint. It's crucially important that you actually, every single sprint, discuss what you did and how it's going. Even if it's going really well, even if it's just a chance to pat yourself on the back and say, yep, it's going really well. There's always room for improvement. There's always things you can make better. In that meeting is the developers and the testers and the UX guys and anybody else who's there, but also the product owner. In this model I'm talking about now, this much more purist, agile type model, the product owner is an integral part of the team. They're there with the team, working with them daily, getting this stuff out. So they have every right to be in the retrospective. If you're working for a company where the product owner is not in the team daily, then fair enough. Don't include them in the retrospective. It's not for them. But if they are, then they should be there giving their thoughts and discussing the actual development, because they are doing development in many ways. Step 5, repeat. That's it. Record what happened. Record the outcomes of the retrospectives. Record the actions you're going to take. Fingers crossed you'll pick one important action and you'll go with it. Only change one thing at a time if you can. Don't try and change lots of things every single iteration, because if you do change lots of things, you won't know what change actually made you get better. Record the velocity. Update the burn up. Make sure your burn down's kept somewhere safe. Make sure you've got a record of what work you've done. Put it up on the walls. Make it obvious to the team. Communicate this stuff out. Start the next planning session. That's it. You're back to step 1. That's all there is to it. It really isn't any more complicated than that. So that's it. That is the development process. Just keep running through that cycle. Keep constantly looking for improvement. Improve that velocity every single time. And you are going to see drastic improvements. Drastic increases in productivity over what you've previously been getting. Something you can do today to make your development better. What I'm going to recommend today is, if you can't get distractions from interruptions, if you cannot get away from other daily bits and pieces, institute golden hours. What that means is set times during the day. It might be a couple of hours in the morning, it might be a couple of hours in the afternoon, it might be multiple times in the day, when you make it very clear that the development team cannot be interrupted by anyone. No one gets to interrupt the development team for what they want. That can include people turning up in person. That can include people on the phone. It can include email. You make it very clear the development team will not accept it, and you make them understand that they will not respond to anything like that. And this goes doubly so for directors turning up. I've instituted this in places, and I've seen a huge productivity boost from it, simply because people don't realise how distracting it is to walk up and just start asking questions of people. As I say, that goes double for directors. They're probably the most distracting ones of the bunch. Thanks for listening to Software Rocks. If you want more information on this show, the show notes can be found at softwarerocks.tv/10. Don't forget, if you like the show, please give me a review on iTunes or whatever platform it is you're doing. Leave me a comment. I love to read through them. It helps me work out what I'm getting right and what I'm getting wrong. Leave me a review. It really helps me get the word out and helps other people like you find the good shows out there. So please do leave me a review. If you want to get in touch or ask a question, or you've just got something to say, email me, andrew@softwarerocks.tv. Join the Facebook group, or you can sign up for the newsletter, softwarerocks.tv/sign up. Finally, you can follow me on Twitter, @AndrewBinstead. Thanks for listening. I hope your development just got a little bit better. Welcome to Software Rocks, where I'm going to teach you how to take your software from... Today on the show, the productive development... So, last week, there was another there it is. Job number 1, get the so's in. Over this podcast... nope, don't even want like that. So, what happens next? There was a massive so. So, there's a nice big so. So, there's another so. Get the so's in while I can. Let's allow them to work in then they're going to play planning. Then they're going to play planning. Can't bloody speak today. Then they're going to play planning ploker, apparently. Step 2, working. So for the next. But again, we're aiming for Agile.